You're listening to Brayzen Bookworm's Unrighteous Reading Rebellion, a reformed book snob's journey and musings through all things romance. Some language may not be safe for all ears. Frequent use of sarcasm may occur. We are so excited today to be joined by two of our absolute favorites. So Samantha Christy and Jason Clarke, author Samantha Christy, narrator Jason Clarke, are joining us today to talk about all the things that they've collaborated on and some wonderful things that have been in the works and what we love about them all. So as you guys know, if you've joined us before, we're the lkerSisters, and we love having people on who we enjoy reading and listening to, and we are super honored to have both of you here with us today. So Samantha and Jason, thank you guys so much for joining us today and chatting with us.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
The voice, sorry. So
you don't get that at all, do you, Jason?
It's very kind. That's my goal, is to provoke that reaction.
I love it. So well, keep doing it.
Mission accomplished.
Mission accomplished. So we're talking about this is kind of a pretty nice big milestone, Samantha and Jason. This is the upcoming release of the audiobook for No Easy Dare. Is your 10th audiobook collaboration, which is pretty cool. So thank you both for joining us. We'll talk a little bit about No Easy Dare, but a lot about the books that you've collaborated on, writing and narrating in general. And I'm going to start real quick with first, big time gratitude for you guys being here. And all right, lkerSisters, do you have a favorite Samantha Christy novel and or Jason Clarke narration? All right, Susie.
Untaken Twin was probably my favorite book.
I love it.
I can't say audible because I don't read Audible.
Well,
but
yes.
I do follow Jason Clarke on Instagram, so I do hear his voice and reading.
And we hear about him a lot.
Yes, we do.
Gosh. All right, Julie, what about you?
I actually have not listened to a Jason Clarke audiobook. Sorry, it will happen. I know I should be in trouble.
You are in trouble.
And gosh, with Samantha Christy, I've read them all. I'm going to say No Easy Dare or Catching Caden. I can't. You're making me choose.
You can have two favorites. We don't believe in choosing a single favorite. You can have more than one favorite. I am 100% on board with having all the favorites. So totally acceptable. Ron, what about you?
Untaken Twin is my favorite so far, but I'm in the middle of No Easy Dare, and it's a really, really close second at the moment, but I think it's going to win. And Good Vibrations was my first and only audio from Jason, and I adore it. And there'll be more. I'm very new to audio books. They were completely and totally educational environment for me. So sticking my toe in the water for romance, and you were actually the first one.
Oh, that's so cool.
I love it. So Jason,
and now I'm hooked.
Your audiobook Cherry. Very cool. I love that. I love that. So okay, we're not even going to go with me trying to deny anything. Jason's one of my absolute top favorite narrators. I've listened to probably dozens of narrations at this point, and I think No Easy Dare is probably right now, and I can say this because I'm 85% through the audiobook proofing. So Samantha, you'll have it by Friday. I'm almost done. It is so good. So the book was phenomenal, and I couldn't wait to dive into the audio and started listening to it. And I was like, damn, it's really good. So Good Vibrations was that top, and Hunter just kind of really edged out Miles Brody. So
I love the way you messaged me and you said, oh my gosh, I just listened to this line and you're going to die.
Yeah, there were a couple of those, but I don't remember what the one I sent was.
I'll tell you, it was, and now I have a boner on the subway.
That's right.
Oh my God.
It was, okay. So the inflection. So, when you listen to some things, and Jason, I'm sure you know this as a narrator also, there are certain things that as you're going along, inflection makes a line. And it can be the most boring line if it's read incorrectly or nothing happens at all. And then you're like, just the certain inflection. And there've been a lot of those in this novel, to be quite honest. The emotional depth of No Easy Dare is pretty phenomenal. So I loved Good Vibrations because the comedy elements of it and the broody grump in it was great. That's Kaylee Loring, of course, and her rom-coms are phenomenal. And then No Easy Dare is kind of like the total opposite end of the spectrum, where it's really emotional, it's really deep, it has multiple layers of there's comedy in it and there's a lot of depth in it, and then one line will come in and it's like, damn. And I just got to another one last night that I was on the verge of tears because it's so deep, and it's when they're in Florida, when they flee and they're in Florida, and it's him recognizing how everything has changed in his life. And I was like, oh shit. I paused and I just sat there for a minute and then I went back and listened to it again, because some lines, when you read them, they resonate, and then when you hear them, they come to life. And that's not something everybody can do. So
thanks, Michelle. Thank you so much.
I'm sorry, I just got chills. So there's a level of performance that goes into narrating that can be comedic timing, and it can be emotional depth. And it really takes someone who has, it's not just knowledge of what you're reading, it's really understanding the character. So getting into a book like that, and you do have a pretty large repertoire, Jason, of the books that you do, everything from rom-com to drama, paranormal, Storm of Sin by Patricia D. Eddy, one of my favorites. And it's a very different level of investment, I guess, in a book.
Sure, yeah.
But this is 10 audiobooks that you've narrated for Samantha. Stone Brothers series, all 3 of those. The Reckless Rockstar series, all 3 of those. And then the Devil's Horn Ranch series, the Texas series, all 3 of those. And now No Easy Dare. And okay, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. I don't think this is in the questions, but Julie can edit it out afterwards if we don't want to keep it. Do you have a favorite of the ones you've narrated for Samantha? Do you have a favorite?
Oh, that's a good question. I've always talked about how I like the music world. So the Reckless series was so cool. And I have to be honest though. No Easy Dare went places beyond just their love affair and getting to know one another, and even beyond the plot of what Hunter's being put through by his family, by his grandpa. And it went into places that I was pretty floored by, and it really made it so memorable that I think it might be the one that affected me the most. Yeah, so it's both of those. I think the Reckless I have definitely more fun with, just tonally, but I think No Easy Dare overall was a more fulfilling experience.
So
yeah.
let's turn that around on Samantha. Samantha, do you have a favorite?
Well, of course, I haven't listened to No Easy Dare yet, so I can't say that. But yeah, I think the Reckless series was a lot of fun, and I definitely did write that one with him in mind, because I had heard that he had done a little bit of singing for something else. I don't even know what it was, and I've never even heard it, but I heard through the grapevine, and I thought, well, how cool would that be? And when it happened, he didn't really, I think you did some tonal stuff in the first couple books, but you really didn't full on sing until the end of the 3rd one.
Yeah.
And funny story, because I can't carry a tune to save my life, I wrote all the songs in all the 3 books, and I had in my head the tune of this song, and I knew exactly how it was going to go, but I wanted him to sing it, but I was like, he could just give it anything he wants, any tune that he wants. And I was so scared that I wasn't going to like it, that I did something so out of my comfort zone, and I sang the song myself into a recording, and I had it delivered to Jason, and I'm sure he was cringing the whole time. But I tell you what, it was amazing the way he delivered that. It was just how I wanted it. It was perfect, and to me, it made that whole book. So yeah, but hands down, so far that's my favorite.
Yeah, I remember that. I
my
remember
question.
I had never gotten
Thanks.
I had never gotten like a song from an author before. And she's like, I want it sung like this. And I was like, oh, this is actually great. Because then it's not just me making up something out of the blue. And it felt nice, felt collaborative.
It was a lot of fun. We should do it again.
Yeah, we'll start a band.
I can't wait to hear it.
We're here for it. We'll have you back on with the band. There we go.
Yeah.
I just used an Audible credit.
I've used quite a few Audible credits that way. Totally worth it. 100% worth it. But Julie, you had a little bit of a follow-up on that also.
Was this the first time you've sang in a narration, Jason?
No, I had sung, as Samantha mentioned, I sung, I think the first time I'd sung in a book was a book for Lauren Blakely, and it was like jazz standards. And that had been, I think, like a year and a half before I worked on Reckless, which was, I believe, like beginning of 2020 range. So we were going through all that, but no, it wasn't the first time. So I'd had some experience singing in a book, which was new for me.
No, I need to go look
Are
at
you
that.
comfortable doing that? I mean, how many times do you have to do that before you're good with it?
It's I've sung a bit. I sang quite a bit before I started narration, but it took a little bit of time, the first like 2 books that I sang for, where I was like, okay, I can't overdo this. Books are pretty much they're silent except for the voices. So if that voice, all of a sudden they start like projecting a singing voice, it can be really jarring. So I tried to make it sound as like as subdued as possible, so it didn't come off as jarring. But now we're good. Now I think I'm pretty comfortable with it.
And you've sung in a couple since then.
Good Vibrations is one of them.
Yeah. Yep. Now I have to go look up more of those to find. So you said you've sung before. How did you get into audiobook narration to begin with, and why is it something you looked at as a career?
Well, I'm an actor, and I had pursued an acting career for a couple years, and alongside that I had done some commercial voiceover, which I always loved. I've talked about this a bit in the past, but I've loved like going into the booth and into sound studios whenever I've had the opportunity throughout my life. Even when I was in college and I was doing stage stuff, they had one time where we had to like record our voices to be played over during the play, and we got to go into the like recording studios of the university, and it was just like I felt like home. It was so cool to me. So throughout the first like 4 years of my acting career, I was doing some commercial voiceover on the side, but no narration until I was looking for side work, looking for another way to make money. And a friend of an ex-girlfriend was a really prolific voice actor and audiobook narrator. And that person got me in with a studio where I just started auditioning and then started booking and just leaned into it, and it really worked out.
Great.
I'd say it worked out. I like good books, and I'm really picky about narration. So I tend, when I have narrators who I really like hearing their voices, and I feel that they're not just reading me a book, because for a long time, that's kind of what I thought audiobooks were. And I have a child with dyslexia, and they have grown up listening to audiobooks, and I always just thought it was someone reading a book. And I was like, I can read myself a book. And then started listening to, I think it was Julie by a thread said, you have to listen to this book. And I did. And I was like, ooh, okay, so now what else is out there? And it was Pippa Grant's America's Geek Heart, I think was the first book I listened to that Jason narrated, because I was trying to go through all of Pippa's books, and I was like, well, I can read one at home and listen to one in the car. And that was the rotation. And I was like, ooh, okay, add someone else to my list. And I am kind of I know, Julie, you say you're an audiobook snob, but I am definitely one as well. And when I know that there's a voice I like who can add the inflection and bring a character to life in my ears, yeah, I'm going to listen to as many books as I can by those people, because it makes a difference. I know we've talked about this. Audiobook narration can make or break a story sometimes. And if it's the wrong voice, if it doesn't match what the reader thinks, if it's not well performed, it can make a big difference. So when I find narrators who can perform a book really, really well and bring it to life, I'm going to stick with those narrators, just like I'm going to stick with authors that I love. I'm going to stick with those narrators too, because I know I'm going to get something that I'm going to enjoy. So sorry, Jason, you're stuck with me.
Samantha, bouncing off of that, what keeps bringing you back to Jason Clarke as a narrator for your books?
What do you think? No, really. I mean, yeah. Definitely the voice. I mean, 100%. But really, because I know it's gonna get done right. It really, he doesn't need a lot of direction, or he just knows how to do it. And I don't know if that just comes naturally to him, or if he reads the book beforehand and figures out how he's going to do it. But he just always does such a good job at bringing the character the way I hear it in my head.
And Jason, do you pre-read books before you narrate?
Yeah. I do what I can to make sure there's no like surprises in terms of like maybe a character is, not who they say they are early in the book, or if it's being narrated by someone in secret. And then that character is revealed to be someone that we already knew, yada, yada. But no, in general, I do read the book because I need to get a sense of what the characters' attitudes are toward each other, and how they interact with other people. So what I'll do is I'll basically skim the book and make sure that I am pretty clear on, what I'm going to be doing. But when it comes to like planning out how I'm going to deliver things, that's all pretty much done cold. And it's actually something that I prefer to do, because I feel like if I rehearse things or plan things too much, they never come out the way that I would like them to. So yeah, I skim through, basically, get a sense of what the book is and know what happens, and then I record it cold.
So you even read, like in a duel, you read the female parts?
Yeah, absolutely. There are there's definitely chapters where a lot happens in her chapter, and it changes everything, right? And then it'll get to my chapter and I'll be like, well, I don't want to be stuck being like, wait, what happened?
Yeah.
Wait, they're okay now? They're not fighting anymore? Yeah, so I got to make sure I know where that comes from.
So that means you must read a lot.
I do, yeah. I have no time to read for fun anymore. That's honestly, it's fun to do it anyway. So for work, especially, it still remains to be fun for me. So yeah, I mean, it cuts into my time to read stuff that I would otherwise be interested in, but I'm fine with it.
So Jason, how do you pick your projects?
A lot of the projects I do are things I will do with, authors like Samantha, who I've worked with for so long. I'd say the bulk of the books I do are repeat authors who, I do it because I enjoyed working with them. I enjoyed their books. And so I'll just say yes. Unless there's like something in the book that's, a subject matter I won't touch, but that's rarely the case. But if it's a new author, I'm lucky to be at the point where I get the chance to be like, do I want to work on this book? Is this a subject matter I want to explore? Is this something that I just don't have time in my schedule for right now? And then I pretty much just make the decision based on whether I like the book or whether it seems like the author is a good author, and hey, that'd be a nice relationship to form. But yeah, that's pretty much how I do it.
It's great to be
I'm glad I got to him early then.
Yeah. Samantha, you got to be some of my
Roped
early
him right
stuff
in.
for you. I'm like, my voice is so, I approach it so differently now. And I'm like, if anyone wants to listen to, it's like, listen to the more recent stuff in terms of my narration. But I'm glad I got to work with you early on too.
Samantha, you said that you had Jason in mind when you wrote the Reckless series. Is that the only time you had a narrator in your head when you were writing?
Yeah, pretty much, because most of the time when I'm writing, I'm not the kind of person who plots out a book. I'm a pantser, which means I write by the seat of my pants. If you haven't heard it, my characters tend to flesh out during the book. A lot of times I don't even know what kind of person they're gonna be or turn into or whatever. It just happens. Much like Jason said, he doesn't, sit there and rehearse. It just kind of comes to him. That's kind of how I write. So yeah, for the most part, I don't. I just write it as it comes to me. But because I wanted somebody who could sing, and I had heard that he had done it, and I was already in love with his voice, I did hear him in my head as I was writing that book. So the 3 books.
Aww.
That's funny. I love it. So sometimes when I'm reading something, I'll hear certain voices in my head. And I always wonder, like, do authors hear that when you're writing? Do you hear a specific voice as you're going through it? And there have been times I've been reading or editing something and I'm like, I hear this voice, I hear that voice. And you kind of get in your head of, as you're going through, okay, I can hear like just this specific line, or I can see this character.
Just a word?
A word.
A specific word that if I'm reading it and I'm like, I hear Jason in my head saying this word.
Oh, wow.
Every time I write it.
Yeah,
really
there are
cool.
words and phrases that resonate with certain voices, and it's like, yep,
yeah,
that's it.
I remember when you started proofing, or I'm sorry, editing No Easy Dare, and you messaged me and you were like, who's narrating this? And so I always have to go and search our messages, and Samantha had said Jason, and she's like, she was all excited. And then she started hearing your voice as she was editing the book. So
And it's
that was
funny,
exciting.
It helps me provide a cadence. So if when I'm editing something, some things flow naturally and some things require a little tweaking. And if I can assign a voice to it, whoever's voice it is, whether it's Jason or another narrator, sometimes it helps with the cadence, it helps with the flow, it helps with inflection, because some things are obvious the way they should be said, and then some things are not. So, but yeah, when I messaged Julie. I do that a lot. I messaged Julie and I'm like, so do we know who's narrating this one? Because there's a voice in my head and I'm not sure if it's the voice I should be hearing in my head. And sometimes it is. Sometimes it matches up perfectly. And sometimes it's like, oh, okay, not what I'm expecting, but good.
Why do you narrate romance? And is it your favorite, or do you have a favorite genre that you narrate?
I narrate romance because that's what I started off doing. I did a lot of pretty much very similar work to what I do now. And it was the genre that kept coming back. It was, those authors who kept coming back to work with me, and I wanted to say yes because I had a good time doing it. It came pretty naturally to me, which felt great, and then it seemed like folks liked what I was doing. So it all kind of snowballed and together, where because it kept coming in, I kept doing it. And then once I was using this name, Jason Clarke, for so long, and that's what people wanted to reach out to, that name, it got to the point where I was like, well, I might as well just lean into, who Jason Clarke is, and use that to be like, yeah, this is the narrating persona I am. I've done a couple other genres within the romance world that, maybe the main characters fall in love, but it's not exactly a romance genre. Like there's some sci-fi and some like dark fantasy stuff that isn't quite in the romance realm. But that's probably about like 5% of what I do most of the time. And honestly, at this point, I love doing romance. You get the happy ending. You know, some of them cover really tough, darker subject matter, like No Easy Dare, but you know, I'm not spoiling anything. The love wins, right? It comes out on top. And but for the most part, it's a genre that is really enjoyable to do on a day-to-day basis. I'm open to doing other kinds of work, but definitely not actively trying to like say no to anything in the romance world because it's fun.
And you book
I
out
know.
pretty far in advance, so not sure how much time you would have to pick up anything else.
Yeah.
Because I know that you tend to book out pretty far. The good narrators do. You know, there's a wait to get what you want as an author sometimes, I'm sure, because again, you have something specific in your head and you want someone specific to work on it. And Smith, is it a lot of authors are very keen on releasing audio the same time they release the physical copy of the book. So for you as an author, Samantha, why is it worth waiting for some voices and others you're okay with just saying, okay, whoever's available? And for some books, you're like, no, this is who I want and I'll wait.
Well, yeah. First of all, in what's going on now, to get all the good narrators, the great narrators like Jason, you have to book. We're booking, 6-8 months, sometimes a year in advance. I haven't even written the book by then. So sometimes you think, well, I have to book the narrator before I've written the book. And especially when it comes to booking narrators that I haven't worked with before, I've been lucky to have lately gotten to work with some good narrators that I hadn't worked with. That yes, it came out great, but that's a good thing about going back to people like Jason, who you just know and trust to do the job, because it doesn't matter when you book them or what kind of book you write, they're going to come through for you. I don't know if I answered your question, but sometimes it just depends on what your goal is for the book. I would prefer to wait on the narrator and not have a release. That's usually what I do. I rarely get a release right after my book because I don't know when the book's going to be done. But I need to book the narrator, which I have to book a couple months after to give myself a little wiggle room, because that's just too much pressure to have the book done just for the narration. So I don't like to be rushed. So I'd rather wait and get it done right.
Yeah, I understand that. Julie, you were going to say something. I could see it.
Well, I was just going to say before Samantha said what she said, I work with several authors, and I know we have booked Jason out. I think it's for like March or April of 2024. And it's for a kissing book because we don't have a name because she's not written it.
Man.
It's just, that's how far, and that's how important it is to me, at least, if I can persuade the author, to wait for the best, because it makes a huge difference. For myself, I will completely stop a book if it's narrated in a way that I don't appreciate. So.
Yes, Julie has DNF'd some audiobooks just because the voice doesn't sit right, or the narration, and it's true. It's a performance. And, people will DNF a book if they don't like what they're reading. They don't like the plot, the characters, whatever. Sometimes it's not the right time. Sometimes not what they were expecting. And I think we get that way with audiobooks also. Time is precious, and it's not infinite. So when you have something that's doesn't hit the spot, you're like, so for an author, I can see how you'd want to wait until you get the right voice, the right fit, because it's not like there's one fit for every character, but you want to find one that's going to be appropriate and sound right. And it does make a big difference.
Yeah.
Susie, you had a question.
Jason, do you work on multiple projects at once or one book at a time?
If I am really booked, like if I have 3 books due in a week, there are instances where I'll need to overlap, and I will spend like, my morning half recording one, and then the second half of the day recording for another title. But for the most part, I do one at a time. Yeah, I'm pretty on schedule right now. And yeah, it's pretty much, it takes like 2 to 3 days and then I'll move on to the next one.
It's impressive.
It is really impressive.
Yes.
Mhm.
So I'm going to ask the uncomfortable question because I asked it of the last narrators we had.
Yeah.
When you take on romance, it comes with explicit scenes, and do you have to, like, does it take you multiple takes to get those, or do you have giggle outtakes, or is it just something that comes naturally? Because
Sure.
I know that I've written scenes that
Yeah,
I'm like, I couldn't even ask anybody to narrate.
sure. Yeah. No, it's a very private thing. And especially to write it is a whole other way of like putting yourself out there. When reading it, I mean, I have the benefit of just doing, I'm alone, right? Like no one's listening to me when I'm doing it. It's just the microphone. There are some instances where we record over Zoom live or something, and those are a whole other thing, but that's comparatively pretty rare to self-recording, which is how I pretty much do everything. So yeah, because I'm alone, I don't have giggle takes. I try to just stay in the character, stay in the scene. And I guess I'm trying to think, there are instances where I'll stop where I don't want to get too not safe for work, but there's certain words that are they require a certain amount of breath, whether they start with a P or start with a hard C, that I'll be in such a breathy place, and then I'll have to deliver those words, and I'll get like a crack, or I'll lose air because I'm trying to get so low and so moody, and then I'll kind of be like, shoot, I gotta go back and do that again. Like I can't. He didn't mess that character did not say that word like that. You know what I mean? Like people will hear that, he's got to be confident. He's got to be sure of himself. He doesn't have to sound like he's a teenager who's like, this word is, a naughty word or something. You know what I mean? So that's when I will get a couple.
Own those words, Jason.
Oh,
exactly.
no.
Yeah.
Yes.
Confident. And just really hit him hard.
I love that.
Well, as both an author and a reader, your reader,
Yeah.
I appreciate that you take pride in getting those right.
Take the extra time. Oh, I'm glad to hear it. Happy to do it.
I'm sorry.
Susie, that next question, it kind of relates to that.
Yeah, so Jason, how does your acting background play into the narration?
It's pretty much I treat it as acting, so because I've had enough great opportunities to act professionally on stage or and on screen or whatever, and I've gone to school for that kind of thing. I pretty much just use everything I know that can be communicated vocally, just the basic fundamentals of be yourself just under imaginary circumstances, and so I try my best to just bring whoever I am, whoever the character is, like to me. I bring myself to that, and so it can remain as like honest as I hope it comes across. And then obviously you add the affect, you add, I've never been a cranky billionaire grump guy in that way. And I, if I'm playing a different character in the scene, I've never been like this, hey, kind of crazy playboy guy. Like so I kind of add a little bit on top of like, well, this is me when I am grumpy. This is me when I am happy. So I try to just, implement everything I can that I've learned into voice acting.
And there's
just
go ahead, Julie.
sorry, just how you changed, I guess, the inflection right there for that one sentence was like, wow, like it took me for a second. I'm like, I just think that's amazing.
Oh, thank you.
You could really mess with people doing that.
Yeah, for sure. It's the scenes where the characters are interrupting each other when it gets really, I kind of he'll be saying like, please, you just need to don't interrupt me. And he'd be like, please, you just have to. I told you not. Like, it's just, you switch between these two people so much that I'm like, is this normal for me to be doing this? Like, if someone saw me doing this, they'd think this guy's out of his mind, but I guess it works.
And I've
this
actually
profession.
questioned when I've been listening, you know, do you do that voice and then you cut and do the
Yeah,
other
I mean,
voice?
you're in,
Because it's so seamless. I'm like, how do
yeah,
you?
because you're in sound, right? You're like an editor. I apologize if I don't know.
I'm not, I don't have a title.
Oh, okay. Because Michelle mentioned that you could, you know, if we ran into need to cut things, I figured.
Oh,
that
I
was
will cut.
expertise.
Yes, I
Sure.
do. I am not like trained for anything. So
Julie's
Gotcha. Well, no, I mean, it's part of
producer.
what you do.
Yeah,
Got
she
it.
does a
But
lot of
yeah,
great
I
work.
mean, yeah, like it's definitely characters interrupting each other is definitely something you could do in post. But I and most narrators do what they can to just do it all raw, and not make the audio engineers, you know, work their magic, you know. So it's useful to have that skill when you can make it sound like the characters are talking over each other, instead of needing to like make the cut before you send the files out.
That is something I catch and I make notes of constantly when there's like a lag and it's supposed to be an interruption. And it is a talent to hear it and to have the cut. I don't think there are any pickups like that for you.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No. And it's flipping back and forth is when you have that scene where there's multiple characters and you assign different voices for them. And okay, so there's in Dare, the brothers, and you can tell the difference between Hawk and Hunter and Hudson, and you can tell the difference between Izzy and Marcus, the two kids. I'm putting you on the spot here. Do you take notes? How do you keep everyone straight and organized in your head so you're like, oh, I used this voice for this character in chapter 3 and now they're back again in chapter 18 and it's seamless? How do you keep track of all that?
Well, I'm gonna bring Samantha in on this because we had a fun start to this book, where I recorded the first 15 minutes, and I remember you went in and you were like, just do your thing, you know, like I trust you, like this is who they are. And I read Hunter as a much grumpier guy than he was supposed to be, and you had to come back and be like, no, that's actually not who he is. So that actually gave me a lot of impetus to separate those characters even more and be like, okay, he's a playboy, he's a fun-loving guy, he's not this like dramatic dude. And then, you know, Hawk acts this way, he's sort of big brother type, you know. And then I keep it together just because it fits in the narrative. I mean, good authors like Samantha will make it feel natural that, oh yeah, this character is playing this role in this scene and he is the big brother, so he is going to have a bit more of an authoritative, you know, hey buddy, make sure you get that done and don't mess around anymore, you know, like that no funny business kind of guy. And then, you know, Hudson's a bit more sensitive, he's you know, he's in medicine, so you know, it fits. I don't know how else to explain it. It's obviously I just use my memory because it's my job to be able to do that. But them playing those roles in those scenes lends itself to me being like, okay, this person's a gentler type of person, or this person's more intense, right?
That's amazing.
That seems like a tremendous amount of work for your vocal cords. Do you have any special self-care for that?
No, I mean, I don't shout a lot. I don't go places where I have to shout. I don't drink a lot. I make sure not to eat anything that's gonna make me phlegmy before I record. But no, it's part of my voice that just feels good, and I know how to do it based on voice training, I guess. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And I just, you know, don't keep doing long sessions back to back, you know, keep them relegated to like 5 hours. Don't go longer.
Oh, and I'm thinking 5 hours is like a really long session. I was going to ask, so what's a long session? But
No,
yeah, 5 hours
yeah.
is a lot. to talk.
That includes breaks.
Yeah.
You know, take breaks for sure in those 5 hours. But yeah, if I'm really strapped for time, I'll do a whole 8-hour shift, and
Wow.
I'll split it into 2 days or split it into 2 sessions basically.
So is that pretty typical for a book? 2 days, 3 days? Are there books that take longer to record, just because of subject matter or anything like that? What would extend that for you?
It's just length. If it's a long book, it takes longer to record. No, I can't say there's ever been an instance where subject matter has slowed down or sped up a production. It's only if it's a long book, or if it's got sections where we're recording duet, like I'm actually live recording with somebody, just because that takes more scheduling coordination. But surprisingly, those books actually, during the session, we go a lot faster, just because you usually make less mistakes when you're recording live with someone. It's just kind of it's like an animal thing. Like you're naturally speaking with someone, instead of like either, second guessing yourself or stopping your breath so your voice kind of flubs on something. I've found that most people, we seem to record a lot more smoothly when we're doing it live.
Interesting. So you can play off of each other, and it's got to be kind of you're in a booth by yourself when you're doing dual or solo narration.
Almost
And
every time,
so there isn't that opportunity to play off of someone else. It's all you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just
So
fine.
okay. Hey, as an introvert, I completely understand that.
Yeah.
I'd work by myself all day long. So do you have a favorite subgenre? I know you said you like to stay within romance. Do you have a favorite subgenre that you like to narrate? Are there certain things that hit more, where like you see something come up and you're like, oh, this is really my wheelhouse. This is what I like the best.
Yeah. I've come to really I've done quite a few lichen and vampire subgenre for romance. Like getting into that realm has been fun. I guess that's probably a separate question from like, what tropes do I like?
Oh, we'll bring that on too. Talk about
you-
the tropes you like.
Sure. But no, in general, I really love I've always loved any romance that lines up with the music world in any way. I think that's always fun. I don't know if that counts as a subgenre, but
Yeah, it does. Yeah, absolutely. Rock star, country star, those are all that if they weren't before, they definitely have become now. But what about tropes? What are some of your favorites? And are there ones that you avoid?
Yeah, I think my favorites are forbidden romance, or I guess it's like a mix of what is it, one night stand into second chance, where it's like, they met each other, they hooked up, but nothing happened after, and then maybe 6 months go by, and then they run into each other again, but whatever circumstance keeps them from getting together. That's probably my favorite. I like forbidden workplace stuff is pretty great. And then stuff I don't approach, anything that's non-con, I've pretty much given a hard no to that. I don't know, tropes otherwise. Age gap is finicky. I have to be careful a little bit with that, but for the most part, they're done really well. But I just make sure I get a little bit more knowledge ahead of time of like, what exactly is this dynamic, and then I make a decision whether I want to take it on or not.
Yeah, I would imagine it would be hard to go into something blind, not knowing what's in it, and then you get to something where you're like, oh, hard stop. We're not going any
I would
further
never
than this.
exactly. I would never go in on something blind unless it was an author that I'd worked with a lot and really trusted. And at that point, they will email me personally and be like, hey, this is the kind of idea I had. And then, so it's not blind at that point.
You actually had posted, I think, on Instagram on your story that you have just finished maybe a forbidden romance.
Oh, yeah.
Brighton Wash, maybe?
This is yesterday. Yeah.
Okay.
I just finished that today. But I was in the middle of recording yesterday. It was really good. It checked a lot of my boxes as far as like an audience member is concerned.
It added to my TBR because of that.
Okay. Well, I like it. All right.
We talked a little bit about CCR earlier before we started recording. You've been attending a lot of, a fair number of bookish events. What's it like to be face to face with your listeners? Because you're pretty careful about your exposure. So how is it to be signing one-on-one with folks?
I love it. I see it as an opportunity to be like, hey, yeah, this is who I am. And it is, yeah, it's kind of by design that I keep it things pretty private otherwise. And then I use, conventions as opportunities to open up and be more face to face with people. So it feels a bit more like a special experience. Yeah, so I always have a great time. I haven't had
Great.
any negative experiences yet.
Great.
We
Yeah,
enjoyed
it's
it.
great.
Yes.
I know.
Oh, I'm glad.
It's interesting because I think, we go to a lot of signings, and the authors are there, and then there aren't many. It's becoming more popular now, more common to have narrators at the conventions as well. And I mean, for me as a reader, as someone who really enjoys and appreciates audiobooks, it's great because it's, again, it's a special occasion type thing, something you don't always have the opportunity to do. Do you get a chance to network with authors when you go? Are you kind of relegated to meeting people who listen? How
Oh,
does that usually work
absolutely.
with you?
Yeah, I mean, we were talking earlier that, conventions are so big and, we're always so stuck to our tables. So it gets challenging, at least during signings, to go and meet authors or other, maybe narrators. We usually hang out, but, no, I mean, usually the conventions we're part of will do really great work at facilitating opportunities for narrators and authors to meet and spend time with each other. And yeah, Book Bonanza especially, we had I think we had like 4 cocktail parties or something for
Wow.
that purpose alone. So no, yeah, we get the chance to network and just be like, hey, this is me. But yeah, at this point, it's a lot of authors that I've already worked with, so that's good too.
So
Mm.
can I ask, I think that
Yeah.
this probably won't get posted today, but the Book Bonanza lineup is coming out today.
Oh man, for next year.
Yeah, are you going to be there, Jason?
I don't see why not. I don't have a hard yes yet, but
Okay.
I had a great time this summer,
Oh,
so I'm sure
that's
I probably
awesome
will.
because I can
Yeah.
confirm, because this won't come out until after today, that I will be there. So
Okay.
it would be amazing to actually get to meet you in person if you go. The
Oh,
last
I'd love
time
that.
I met Erin Mallon, and it was just
Oh,
a whole
Aaron's
lot
the
of fun getting to
best.
meet and hang out with her, because she's like you. She's done a lot of my books. She may have done 10 of them as well. I'd have to
Yeah.
count, but it was just incredible to get to make that in-person connection. So
Yeah.
if you
Well,
can
hey,
go, I would
cross
love
my
to
fingers.
have a
Yeah,
drink with you.
that would be so fun. Yeah, we'll make it work. Yeah, we'll all go back to Grapevine together.
All right.
Well, hopefully we'll be able to be there too. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We can
All
get some tickets.
all
That's the
6 of
hard
us
part.
together. Yeah,
Yeah, I'll be there with
that would be
another
sweet.
author who
Okay.
Jason has also narrated for. So, yeah, I don't know if I'm allowed to say yet, but I'm kind of nervous because Book Bonanza is huge. I tend to turtle, but I told the other author, I said, I'm just going to hide at your table and go meet a couple of people I really want to see, and otherwise I'm just gonna I'm just gonna hang out and
Yeah.
It is huge. I mean, it's just completely massive, and the thought of it is overwhelming, but they put it on so well, and they just cater to the authors and narrators, and they try to make it easy and as seamless as possible so that we don't have to stress out. They really have done a great job,
that's
which
the
is why I
best.
keep
Right.
going back
Yeah.
every other year.
I
So
agree.
yeah,
Yeah.
don't worry about it. It's just a great
Mm.
time.
And that was
Yeah.
the reason I said yes, because I was like, okay, one, I love, love, love this author that I work with, and knowing that she's going made me really happy. And then hearing from other people who've gone about how it's run, and yes, it's huge, but it's huge with a purpose, and they've been doing it long enough that they know what they're doing, so that made it a little better. Indies Invade Philly was overwhelming for me. The first year I went, and then last year Julie and I went, and we were lucky to get the blogger ticket. So that was like, okay, I can do this. Otherwise, it was really overwhelming. So when I looked at the numbers for Book Bonanza, I went, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of peopling. But I told this other author, I said, if you go, I'll go. She's like, I'm going. And I went, shit, I got to go now.
The funny thing is most of us bookish people are just complete introverts. I mean, it just even just doing this causes me anxiety, but you know, you get through it. But they really do make it easy, and that's why that's one of the only ones I like to go to. We'll have to see about the Maryland one that y'all put on, because it's smaller and I've heard great things. So
Charm is very different in that Charm is we max out at 30 authors, and we max out at 150 tickets sold, and it really is a chance to network. And we kind of we like to call it the introverts book event, because we've had a lot of people come, authors and readers, who were like, I've never even wanted to go to something like this, but this is more my speed and my size. We're adding a couple of narrators in 2024. We are keeping it small. And then again in 2025, just because we feel like the opportunity to make the connections on that level is really important to us, because we want it to be a reflection of the community. Not one element of the community, but the entire Romancelandia community. And at least for me, and I know for a lot of others, the narrators are a huge part of that. So finding ways for the narrators to work with the authors that they come with, and to meet authors where they may have never met them before, because you don't think about that, you know, Samantha, you're writing in, you know, where you live, and Jason's recording where he lives, and it's not really a conducive industry for people who work together multiple times to just organically meet each other in person. So I love that the book events allow you to do that, whether it's Book Bonanza, which is huge, or something mid-range like Indies, which is kind of in that middle range, or something really small like Charm, where it provides those opportunities for you guys to get a chance to hang out, to meet each other, to have an in-person, face-to-face. That's kind of cool.
It makes me so happy when I finally get to meet an author I've worked with before, and then meet them, and they're like excited to meet me too. And I'm like, really? You seem like this like big time, like you've got this big line, you know. And I'm like, oh, cool, they care to meet me. It's like, yeah, like you said, I'm so glad book events facilitate that kind of like reunion.
Cool. So we're coming up on an hour, over a little bit over the hour.
We are. So we're gonna do our random questions are 10, and somehow we'll get through it. So these are fun. This is like a this or that, and there's no stress here. Nobody's gonna hold you to it if you change your mind later about what you answered, but just we'll go back and forth. So we'll ask both of you both questions. And Julie, you're gonna start. So who are we asking first?
Samantha.
Okay.
Beach or lake?
Beach.
Jason.
Beach, yeah, for sure.
Jason, coffee or tea?
I used to say tea, but lately coffee. Yeah, coffee, I'd say.
Samantha.
Neither.
Okay. What's your beverage of choice?
Water during the day, something different at night.
Yeah, always water. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, this is probably not a good question for you, Samantha, but sweater or hoodie?
Hoodie.
Jason?
Sweater for me.
Okay. Jason, jeans or sweats?
Sweats.
Samantha?
I could just stand up and show you, but sweats. All day, every day.
Yeah.
Samantha, pizza or tacos?
Pizza.
Jason?
Pizza.
That's surprising.
I'm in New York.
Yeah, I know, me too, but seriously.
Oh, okay, sure.
So, Jason, book or audio?
Book.
Samantha?
Book.
Susie, you're up.
Jason, Kindle or paperback?
Paperback.
Samantha,
Paperback.
Jason, planner or go with the flow?
Go with the flow.
Samantha,
Same.
I wish I was a planner. We're two cancers.
Jason, frozen yogurt or ice cream?
Ice cream.
Ice
Samantha,
cream.
Okay, and the one everybody's waiting for the answer for is Samantha, you're first. Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Jason?
Cats. I know. I like the cat. It's my favorite easily. I like dogs too, but I've got a cat, and it's gonna be cats for me till the day I die.
It's funny. Some people are very, very adamant about that. They're one or the other.
Yeah.
I would be cats. I would be cats, but I'm severely allergic. So we have a hyperallergenic
Oh.
dog. So
Yeah,
Aw.
that makes sense. Yep.
And he's an
Adorable little thing.
Your
Your dog is so
look at
cute.
him, my little Ozzy.
He is so cute.
So did we-
He is.
Did
Tad
we
bit
miss-
spoiled.
Did we miss anything? Is there anything you guys want to pimp or anything we should know about you? What you've got coming up?
No Easy Dare by Samantha Christy. No, I'll be at Indies Invade Philly in November, or no, October.
October.
Very excited for. Yeah. That's about it. I got nothing.
Samantha.
What about you? What's coming up next?
Well, I'm in the middle of writing No Simple Lie, which is the third in the McQuaid brothers. Might have a couple little surprises coming up after
Ooh.
that. And then I've got my next signing is going to be Book Bonanza in June.
Wow. Fantastic.
Well, I know that
Great.
No Easy Dare will be back to you guys very soon.
I can't wait.
Not a lot of pickups in
can't
this one,
either.
so it's really. It's really clean. Not the
Alright.
content, obviously, but the recording is really clean, and it is fantastic. So, yeah, I'm really enjoying having that one in my ears, and I think everybody else is going to as well. It's really, really well done. The storyline is. Samantha, you've got the lock on the twists and turns and the unexpected and the holy shit moments. And then, oh, we're not done yet. There's another holy shit moment. And this book has a lot of them. And Jason, the narration is just, it really comes alive in your voice. So it's been an absolute joy to listen to, and I will listen to it again
Thank you.
When it
comes out on Audible because it's really, really good.
So thank you both
you,
so much for
guys.
coming on and hanging out with
Yeah.
us.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
Thanks
thank
for
Oh,
having me.
my pleasure. Yeah, this is fun.
So awesome. Thank
And
you.
you're both
Julie.
welcome back, and you're both welcome
Yeah.
at CCR anytime you want to come.
Yeah, all
That's
right.
true.
But thank you guys
Thank you.
so
Thank
much
you.
for joining us. And I know everybody's going to love this. So thanks again.